Well, the Spyderco Paramilitary 2 for Bushcraft. Now, as I've said, I believe this is an excellent tool to accompany a kit. I don't really look at this knife here as a standalone knife for Bushcraft, okay? So, of course, any type of cutting or splitting, excuse me, you are going to want to, probably use a different tool. So what we're going to do here is we're going to split down some wood using this here. And here's our little wedge. If you're going to be hanging out anywhere for long enough, it's probably a good idea to make a little wedge for around camp. So this makes some quick work out of a little wedge, and it does save your knife a lot of wear and tear. So real quickly, we've got two different kinds of wood that I'm going to split. And one of them is you're going to find a lot more naturally. Okay, and that's just a branch, all right? So as you can see, I really don't need to split this maple. This is one of the things that I like about maple. And but here is a piece of maple, okay? So we'll say that we want to split this down even further, okay? And we can do things like this. Now, we do not want to pull towards ourselves with the blade facing us or anything like that. This is going to be very controlled, and we're going to go like this right here. So you see this? I can't cut myself like this. It'd be very, very hard, okay? Make sure you're on a very stable, the ground is very stable. You don't want to fall forward on your knife either. Of course, at this point, you can give a little twist, but there's no need to do that. That puts lateral stress on your knife. While it might be rated for 160 some pounds, we'll just say, straight down, laterally, it probably isn't. Okay, so here's another piece. Here's another method. Let's try to. And it's just doing this right here, holding onto the knife a little bit, pressing down. Okay, that's how we'll split wood with a folding knife. Now, you can baton wood with a folding knife. People do it. People have done it. What you really don't want to do is to have this lock on and to be banging on this knife. If you want the lock on and you just want to tap your knife just to sort of seat it, that's fine. We can disengage this lock so there's no pressure on it, and we can put it up there. Let's do this here. But now you gotta be careful that when you do this, you gotta pull it out now, remember, okay? So I just have it seated there just a little bit. I'm gonna have to lock it to pull it out. No problem. The weight of this knife, the strength of this knife alone, I probably could get enough momentum like this, rocking only down. We're not rocking to the side at all. You got to be careful because just a fraction of a millimeter to the side can mean the difference of causing your knife some problems. One of the other great things about the pocket clip, right in the pocket. So I just have that little cut there that I made in the wood. So if you really want to spare your knife, always get a small baton. You can always hit something more times and not risk your blade as much. Sometimes I see people getting these really long batons and really smashing on their knife. A lot of times it isn't that necessary. And if you have a big baton, the weight of it on something like this pocket knife could cause it damage. And here's what I would do in the field. If for some reason I did not have the proper tool to split wood. All right. And we would split her down like that. So we've got that. And suppose that we want to make our fire now. Having that finger choil works out really, really nice for this. It's got jimping, but the jimping is not, too aggressive. At least I don't find that it is. So as I said, having the knife right here in your hand, if you engage the lock, it won't cut you because that kick or what's been made into a choil with some jimping stops at your knuckle. So if you're wearing gloves or you wrap something around this knife that puts your hand out here, you won't have that luxury of not getting cut if the blade breaks the lock. Or we can go right here. Now, of course, you got to be careful because there's not much, before we're going to hit the cutting edge here. But it does offer some control. And I carry tip down. I know some people, tactically, that isn't quick enough for them. I always have carried tip down. So I don't believe it really was that much of an option when a lot of these knives started coming out, and that's just how I've stayed. And I can pull it out quick enough and do whatever I need to do with it in this fashion. But this is nice, this clip here, because it does seem to give a little bit when you're up closer, a little bit more palm filling right here. This sort of lays over the calluses, or this part here of your hand here. So obviously this blade has a nice continuous curve on there, so slicing and how the knife is designed, of course you wouldn't really expect anything less from Spyderco. Spyderco is an excellent company when it comes to these types of folders. I mean, they don't make bad fixed blades either. I'm not trying to say that. That's for certain. I do own one of their fixed blades. It's the Spyderco Bushcraft. It's manufactured in Taiwan, but I've got to say that for the most part, the fit and finish on that knife, along with the sheath, man, that's an excellent knife. That is an excellent knife. Quality is quality, and it doesn't really matter where it's manufactured as long as it's quality. And there are excellent craftsmen in Taiwan, as there is in Solingen, Germany, as there is in Mora, Sweden, Escanaba, Michigan, Olean, New York, you name it. There is art, right, to good knife making, and it just doesn't stay in one region. There's skilled people all over the place. Seki, Japan, is another one. So look at that. I mean, that's definitely passable. As I had stated before, the Spyderco does have a 90-degree spine. Sorry there. So we can give it a shot. I don't really have a good ferro rod, but this here is just some tree bark. I believe it's off an aspen poplar, but we can try to get a spark in there. Almost getting it. If I had a longer ferro rod, I think we would get it. As you can see, it doesn't really have an issue throwing a spark. Throwing a spark, scraping your tinder. Well, I didn't prepare that well enough. As you can see, though, no issues with that. Of course, you can take the blade out like this, and probably could do it easier. Let's try it again this way here. So, I mean, you do have to be careful with some of the lateral force you can apply. Well, classic case of not preparing tinder good enough, but it worked out anyways for me, and I do apologize if I was off camera with that, but so, you know, extremely doable to take this knife, this Spyderco Bushcraft, and a ferro rod, and go about your day out in the woods. And I'll tell you, if you bring along a fixed blade and a folding saw or a hatchet, which is always what I've done, a hatchet and a small folding saw. It used to be a Fisker's, now it's a Laplander. This knife functions great. Always very, very handy. Let's face it, sometimes you go starting to do something and you realize, oh man, you know, I've got a hold of this or that, and I need to cut this without letting this other hand go of it. And it's nice to have a knife like this that's right here, especially with coats and things like that on. Always comes in really, really handy. So once again, folks, Spyderco Paramilitary 2 can function for bushcraft.